Looking at the next one, use a calculator to approximate each cotangent ratio, round to the nearest hundredth. So if you look, there's no cotangent button on here. So the way you're going to do cotangent is you're going to do 1 over tangent of 60 degrees, and that'll give you your answer. So when you type that into your calculator, you can do 1 divided by tangent of 60. And in this case, it gives us 0.57735, and it asks us to round it to the nearest hundredth. So cotangent of 60 degrees is going to be equal to 0.58. Looking at the next one, and this is where the trig functions start getting used a lot, and this is where you use them to start finding values in problems. So use a tangent ratio to calculate the missing length of the triangle, round your answers to the nearest hundredth. So if we look, there's our reference angle, this is opposite, and this is our adjacent, so we're using tangent. And looking back at our basic definition, tangent of an angle is going to be equal to opposite over adjacent. So in this case, tangent of an angle, our angle in this one is going to be 40, is going to be equal to our opposite is x over our adjacent is 2. So once we get to this point, our job is to solve for x using algebra. So to get x all by itself, we multiply both sides by the denominator. So multiply both sides by 2. And we're going to end up with 2 times the tangent of 40 is going to be equal to x. So if we put that into our calculator, 2 times the tangent of 40 is going to be 1.67819, and it asks us to round to the nearest hundredth. There's our hundredth spot. So 8 is bigger than 5. So it's going to be 1.68 is equal to x. And let's put our units on there. And this one we're working with feet. So this one over here is going to be feet as well. So when we use the tangent ratio to calculate the missing length, we end up with x is equal to 1.68 feet. The next example, we could also use these tangent ratios to calculate angles and find angles. So calculate the measure of angle x for each triangle. And I think most people are going to go, okay, here's my angle x. We're going to be using opposite, and then this one's our adjacent, because this one's our hypotenuse. So let's try tangent of an angle is going to be equal to opposite over adjacent. So if we plug all our values in, tangent of x is going to be equal to opposite is 5 over 9. And then we need to solve for x. So we need the x to be outside. So in order to undo the tangent of an angle, we have to do the inverse tangent. The inverse tangent of 5 over 9 of those sides is going to give us angle x. And if you look at your calculator, you see how there's a little inverse tangent above the tangent button? And if it's not there on your calculator, let me know and I'll show you where it is. So with these, when you calculate them, you're going to go second, inverse tangent, and then you're going to do 5 and then use the fraction button over 9. And then it wants the answer rounded to the nearest hundredth, so angle x is going to be equal to, let's see, 29.0546 hundredths is right there. That one's less than 5, so this one's, the 4 is less than 5, so it's going to stay 29.05, and this is degrees because it's the measure of the angle. And they can also give you word problems with these. So a boat travels in the following path. It's going to go that way, east, and then it's going to go north, and it wants to know how far north it traveled. It gave you a compass rose to tell you which way's north. So that's what it wants us to find. Round the answers to the nearest hundredth. So if this is our reference angle, that makes this one be our opposite and this one be our adjacent. So if we do that, tangent of an angle is going to be equal to opposite over adjacent. Tangent of 23 is going to be equal to x over 45. Well, we need to solve for x, so we multiply both sides by the denominator. So x is going to be equal to 45 times the tangent of 23. And we put that in the calculator exactly as the way it looks. 45 times the tangent of 23. And it wants us to round to the nearest hundredth. So x in this case is going to be equal to 19.10. And in this case it's miles. And you're going to want to make sure you put the 0 on there to let whoever reads this know that you thought about the hundreds, and the hundreds is going to be 0. Looking at the next example, it tells us a lifeguard is sitting at an observation chair at a pool. The lifeguard's eye level, and they were really nice, they gave us the picture. They cannot give you pictures for these and you'll need to draw them. But the lifeguard's eye level is 6.2 feet up from the ground, and the chair is 15.4 feet away from the swimmer. Calculate the measure of the angle formed when the lifeguard looks down at the swimmer. So they want us to find that one right there. And based on this reference angle, this one's our opposite, and this one's our adjacent. There's our 90-degree angle. So tangent of an angle is equal to opposite over adjacent. So tangent of the angle we don't know, I'm going to make it a nice big capital X, is going to be opposite, which is 15.4, over adjacent, which is 6.2. Well, we need to solve for this angle, so we need this to be angle X is equal to things. And so we need to do the inverse operation for tangent, and the inverse tangent is the inverse operation. So inverse tangent of 15.4 over 6.2 is equal to angle X. And if we type that in the calculator exactly the way it looks, I'm going to do second tangent 15.4 over 6.2. And hit the equals button. And it tells us that angle X, and it wants us to round to the nearest hundredth, so 68.07 degrees.